Here is a Tacoma lift checklist if you're considering lifting your Tacoma. Well, good morning everybody and welcome back to the channel. That's right, I came up with a little checklist, I guess, something I wish I'd have had if you're considering lifting your Tacoma. Now, this doesn't really apply to the lift itself. I mean, you've got to figure out from the vast expanse of information out there what kind of lift you want. But these are things that you should consider if you're going to lift your truck, repercussions of lifting the truck, I guess. Just a little checklist of stuff. So first of all, I'm going to kind of take you guys around the truck with me and show you what I'm talking about. First of all are the brake lines. You've got to consider the distance of the brake lines, I guess, if you're going to go with a more extreme lift. If you're going with something above a 3 or maybe even a 4-inch lift, you should consider the impact of the length of the brake lines on that. I mean, you're going to stretch those brake lines out so that they could potentially break if you're off-roading, or maybe even just a severe bump on a normal road. Next up, let's go over here and take a look at the tires. You know, I think typically, if you're like me and probably 95% of all people that lift their trucks, you're probably going to put bigger tires on. And you have to be concerned as to what that's going to change with the geometry, I guess, of the wheel well, of the opening, and of the UCA back there. You know, I had a problem before where the inside of my tire was actually rubbing the UCA because it was too close. Also, you need to be concerned when you turn the truck and when the truck bounces up and down, is that bigger tire going to hit the inner fender here, either on the back or more likely up here in the front? I had that problem as well. With this current lift, which gives me about a 3.5-inch height, I don't have to worry about that anymore, I don't think. Next up, if you've got a truck that has all the sensors and stuff on it, you know, the Tacoma has its famous TSS sensor right up there behind that badge. And also, I have sensors on the back corners. You may have noticed these little black plugs back here on the back of your bumper, one on each side. Those, of course, sense anything that might be in your way when you're backing up. And you need to be aware that when you lift the truck, particularly more so in the front with the TSS sensor, that it's going to change the angles. And I have heard people that have had problems with that TSS sensor once they lifted the truck. They had to have it recalibrated or relocated. So you just need to be aware that if you go above, I would say a 3 or 4-inch lift, those kind of things could start to come into play. Next up, of course, the headlights. I've had several people mention to me about whether or not I have adjusted my headlights. You know, the truck is higher, right? So obviously, they're not going to shine in the same position they shined in before you lifted it, right? I mean, it makes sense. So really, yeah, you probably, if you'd like to be courteous, you know, and see, to the other drivers out there, probably should adjust those headlights down just a little bit. Needless to say, when you lift the truck, in my case, 3.5 inches, that's going to lift the beam 3.5 inches. So something else that, that you probably should take care of. Next up, if you've got this, the cameras on the truck. You know, I have 2 cameras. I actually have more, but really the only 2 that I'd be concerned with. One is right up here in the grill, right there below the TSS sensor. And then, of course, the other is in the back here on the tailgate to be able to see when I back up and stuff like that, you know, right up there. Now, again, you're lifting the truck, so you have to be at least aware. I don't think there's any big change needed. It's a broad enough view that you can see everything out there, but you need to be aware that the angle of that camera is going to be changed a little bit. In my case, it's 3.5 inches different. Now, I don't know what the actual angle change is, but just to be aware that things are going to appear a little bit different on your screen once you lift the truck. Next up, and this is probably at least as important, if not more important than the other items, are the drops that you really should do. On mine, we have the differential drop, which you can't see right now because it's actually below the TRD skid plate. But it's a couple of spacers, about 1 inch. So we drop the differential down, and mine does have this, an inch. Now, this only applies if you have a four-wheel drive. Obviously, you're not going to have that diff in the front if you don't have a four-wheel drive. Next up are the sway bar drops. Now, this truck, of course, has a sway bar on the front, or an anti-sway bar. You can see right here. And the silver blocks that you see are actually the spacers. This is to, of course, drop that sway bar down a little bit to try to maintain at least close to the original geometry of the truck. So you need to make sure that you take care of that. In addition, we have, and I don't have this on mine because I don't have the OEM skid plates on here, but there is a little drop kit for this as well. It's about probably about a ½ inch, where you would put them here in the front to drop the skid plate down just a little bit, the OEM skid plate. So you need to be aware that you should do that too. Next up is the carrier bearing drop. Now, this is kind of controversial, I guess. A lot of people say you don't need it, and probably just as many people say you do need it. Oh, we have the neighbor's motorhome out there running, so apologize for any extra noise. But let's go look under here. I did put the spacers on my carrier bearing. Some call it a mid-engine bearing, I guess. But I did go ahead and put them on mine. They're these black spacers that you can see right here. Pretty simple to do. The most important thing when you're doing this mod is not to drop the drive shaft. You take one bolt out at a time and make sure you secure this up there while you're doing it. It's very simple to do otherwise. Probably even easier to do if you're down on the ground. But the whole point in doing this, obviously, is to try to maintain the angle, the proper angle of the drive shafts where they come together there. Let's go out here on the outside and take a look. You can see that you want to try to maintain the angle that we had. Obviously, if I lift the truck, it's going to bring the front part of that up, the back part of it down. We're going to have more of a, or the other way actually, we're going to have more of a dip in it. So in putting those spacers, which is only, you know, maybe a little over ¼ inch, but things like that matter. Everything is very precise these days. So I went ahead and added those to mine. Again, a lot of controversy out there, or opinions I should say, as to whether or not you need to do it. To be honest, the shop that I originally had the lift done on told me that I didn't need to do it unless I experienced some kind of vibration in the drive shaft. And by the way, if you've done a lift and you're experiencing vibrations, it wouldn't hurt to go ahead and do this. It doesn't cost much money. I think it's about 20 bucks or something like that. So pretty cheap and pretty easy to do. So those are the main things that you need to consider. There is one more thing, and those are side steps. Now, again, another very polarizing topic, side steps. A lot of people don't like them, a lot of people do. And I think it kind of more depends on who's going to be getting in and out of the truck. You know, if you're over, I'd say about 6'2", something like that, maybe even a hair lower, you probably don't need side steps. I mean, I don't need side steps at 5'9", but it does make it easier to get in the truck. If you're older, probably should have a set. So you need to consider that, I guess, in the cost or the setup of what you're doing. Anyway, I just wanted to go through this list of stuff for you guys. I wish I'd have had something like this when I lifted my truck. Would have been nice to go through and tick these things off, or at least be aware that you need these things. If you've never done a lift before, like me, this is only the, well, it's the fourth time now for me, but on the first go around, I had never done it before and had no idea about these things. So I hope this helps somebody out there who maybe hadn't thought of this. Anyway, leave a comment down below. Let me know if I've left anything off. If there's something else that maybe I'm missing that I'm not aware of. There is one more thing I'll add, and that is, or our shocks and struts. You know, when you lift up that truck, you're going to change the ride, and like me, you may need to change out the shocks and struts as well, which I have done. Obviously, another little added expense to lifting your truck, although they are really part of the lift. So let me know if I've left anything off. Real quick, also, shameless plug, if you're interested and you haven't before, please check out my other channel. It is RobMotion JT. all about my 2020 Jeep Gladiator, sitting right out there. And don't forget to click that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. And if you wouldn't mind, hit that subscribe button while you're here. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.